Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Jane and I'm so excited to be bringing you another tutorial in regards to our Bob Ross collaboration. I'm really excited for this set because it's going to be a perfect sunset beach mood to send to a loved one in a card, for scrapbooking, or for other creative endeavors. And as always, we are so happy to be partnering with Bob Ross. So if you are interested in purchasing these stamp sets for yourself, please make sure to check out our website at RubberStamps.com. With that said, let's get into it. So in my hand today, I have the two stamp sets that I will be utilizing in today's tutorial. In addition to that, I have a palette full of Ranger archival inks, and these are also available for purchase on our website. Some other things that I will be utilizing in today's video is little Ranger sponges for blending our inks so I can get this really nice airbrushed effect. Other things that you may need are tape glue runners, X-Acto knives, scissors, and maybe even a couple paper towels, just so you don't make a huge mess. Last thing that your stamps will be needing are acrylic blocks. I have 3 of those here in 3 different sizes. I think I'm ready to get the show on the road. I'm going to set these guys aside. And I have an example up top here for you to see, and this is what I'm going to be using to recreate in front of you all. The first thing I am going to do is pick up my first ink in Coastal Coral. I'm going to take that and a clean sponge and get going. I'm not putting like a crazy amount on the sponge, just enough. And I'm just going to start going in circular motions towards the top of my paper. I'm using a really nice kind of muted sunset tones. If you are someone who wants a sunrise or maybe nighttime or maybe a hot sunny 12 o'clock afternoon, you can absolutely change up the color palette. Next, I'm going to go in with Sun Dazed using the same sponge. I'm using the same sponge because I have some of that leftover Coastal Coral on the brush itself. And I just want that all to kind of mix in nicely. So I start getting this almost kind of like tangerine transitional color. Bob Ross was a master at mixing colors and blending things in flawlessly. And you too can learn to do that using these inks and just a couple sponge brushes. I think that's looking really nice. I'm just keeping this kind of open spot. It's picking it up really nicely on the camera. Almost like the sun coming through or a reflection. And then I'm doing the same thing down below. Looks good. Changing up my brush now because I am going to a blue color. So blues and yellows, I don't need that all mixing together because I want my ocean to be ocean colored. I have French Ultramarine, and I'm just going to do a light wash of this. On my example here, I didn't go all the way down to the bottom of the paper, so I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to just hit at the top of this bottom third and even just a little bit so it does blend just so. that looks quite nice. I have a really good airbrushed effect going on here. And with that all laid down, I'm going to start opening up my stamps and layering them on top of my canvas. Now I have my blues. I have two tones here, one in cobalt and one in, I believe, manganese blue. I'm going to start with the darker color first. And I'm looking at my example, just getting an idea of where I want everything to be placed. And I really want to make sure my ink is saturating the stamp so I get a nice even impression. Can set that down. And don't be afraid to even try out your stamps off to the side. Working on this nice big surface gives you a lot of room just to try, see what colors they look like, see what the placement could be. Just gives yourself some options. I'm going to kind of follow this just so. Not bad. Can take this guy off and rinse and repeat. There we go. And then I'm going to go in with the lighter shade, manganese blue. And again, I'm just really making sure everything gets a nice layer of ink. Having the good studio lights definitely helps. And that way I can really see what's going on. Looks good to me. I'm gonna line this up. Not bad. I did miss a little bit in here, but the points that I really wanted to get with the shadowing effect, I'm happy with that, but let's see if I were just to hit it one more time. There we go. And I have one last big stamp, which is the sand. Just going to position this. And you can use the grid lines on these blocks to help line up. I have my sand attached to the block, and I'm going to go in with the very fitting color of Pebble Beach. Going with this. This color is a bit tricky to see because it really starts to blend in with the stamp. So again, just really going in. Looks good. Put that there and that there. And I'm just slightly rocking the stamp plate. I know that's taboo, but with the angle that I'm at, just a little bit of motion is helping that stamp get on the paper. Now, if you really wanted, you could even go in with the sponge itself and just kind of drag. Gives it a little bit more texture and a little bit more saturation. So the sets come in these two, so that one, they're nice and big, and two, you have some additional options for embellishing your crafting creations. So how I'm going to start embellishing is with my palm trees. So they're just coming off the corner. You could have multiple. You could have none. You could have just the two. It's entirely up to you. Place that on there. And now I have the color Library Green. And I'm just going to go in where there's this empty spot, and I'm going to cover that using the palm trees. We're in an area of the world where palm trees don't exist, so it's pine trees for us. That's nice. Now I know you might be thinking, Jane, Bob doesn't paint a lot of beaches. And you're not wrong. But he has painted some. And in an effort to really appeal and extrapolate Bob's visions, not only with his paintings, but his awareness of the environment and how we interact with it and how the animals do, we thought it was completely appropriate to include some of his more non-traditional settings. The beach is also a really calming place for a lot of people. Myself, I don't really get to go to the beach a lot, so to have a beach in my little studio, it's quite nice. I have my orange here in Monarch Orange. And the Monarchs, I actually just saw a few yesterday. We're starting to get to that time of the year where they will be leaving us shortly. And I'm just going to place my sun off to the side. And everything I have left here is just additional embellishing. I have some grasses, birds, clouds. So it's pretty to the point for the remainder of my crafting process. Going in with sepia and my little cattails. You could have a whole field of these kind of reed-like plants. I just have a few coming off to the side, this bottom corner here. And I might even go in again. Just add a couple more. Keeping that same color of sepia, and some little tiny birds. And I'm going to be using brown just so it feels like they're a bit farther off in the distance. I'm going to have them overlap the sunset just so. I'm changing it up and I'm going with the pigment ink in Glacier White. The pigment is going to be a not only thicker consistency, but it has a lot more moisture to it. So beware, because if you are doing a lot of layering, a lot of crafting, these ink pads do not dry like the archival. They stay wet for quite some time, but the opaque color payoff is really nice. Looking back, I could have done the pigment ink beforehand, but again, I didn't want it to start really overlapping and getting muddy with the palm tree. Oh, that's nice. And I wonder if I can even just kind of... just a little bit. And that cloud stamp as well could be used for even some highlights on your water. If you wanted to hit it with some white. Something else that is super useful is a white gel pen, and that way you can just add some embellishments. But my last embellishment is, I think I'm gonna go with "You can do anything you want, this is your world." There's 2 quotes on here from Bob himself. You have to have the dark in order to show the light. And then, as I said, you can do anything you want, this is your world. The quotes are also staggered in the set, so if you wanted to line them all up in a perfect horizontal line, you can. Otherwise, for what I will be doing, I'm going to be kind of staggering them down so they have a sort of stacked effect. That way, you just get a little bit more of a choice with how you want your words to be laid out. And of course, just because I do it one way doesn't mean that you have to. And I'm really using my thumbs actually to push down. This font has a bit more boldness to it, so I should get a nice impression. With the other phrase, like I have on top with the example, it's a bit more fine, so you just want to make sure you're really getting all that ink and pressure applied. Really just pushing down. I think I'm at the point where I'm going to call it. A really important lesson in art is to know when to say when. Sometimes you have to take a break. Sometimes you put in a bunch of hours at a time. When you step back, things might not look the way you imagined. So I'm at that magical spot right now where I feel good. I'm proud of what I did. And I'm glad I got to share it with you. So with that said, we at RubberStamps.com would like to thank you for watching, and as a reminder to please go out and check online at RubberStamps.com to purchase your own Bob Ross stamp sets. When you create your own envision, we would love to see it, so please hit us with the hashtag #StampWithUs. Again, that's hashtag #StampWithUs, so that we can be inspired by your next creation. Thank you for joining us, and from all of us at RubberStamps.com, happy stamping.